Welcome to the Failing Up podcast. Today we're talking to Aaron Joyce. He talks to us about his experience with the Covenant School shooting, how that impacted his life, his family, and the way he looks at his business. Super impactful session today. So glad Aaron could join us. Come dive in with us.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Failing Up podcast, humble lessons in life and business. My name's David Huffaker. I'm here with my co-host, Dusty Oglesby. Dusty, welcome, brother.
Come on. It's good to be here.
Good to be here. Glad to see you. Thanks for flying in and being a part of our journey here in Nashville. We're getting ready to launch Summer Summit.
That's right.
2023.
That's right.
3 days of some amazing speakers and guests in Nashville, Tennessee. So excited to be able to welcome some of them to the studio as we're recording these episodes for you guys. It's around the middle of July in 2023. And so we have also our amazing guest today, Mr. Aaron Joyce. Joyce, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me, and it was an honor to get the text, and thank you very much.
I love it, man. You're an amazing human, and isn't it funny how the way things work, right? And so you and I spoke a couple of months ago, and then you just showed up in my world yesterday morning on the growth call, right? With KW.
Yep.
And just such a powerful story, and thankfully us living here in the same city, I was like, oh man, what a great opportunity to see you and get to share a few minutes with you. So for our listeners that don't know you, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us a little about you, your background, your real estate business.
I'm Aaron Joyce. My wife, Mary, and I started Your Nashville Agent team here at the Keller Williams Music City about 7.5 years ago. I've been in real estate 10 years, started all with Keller Williams, but somebody else's team first. Took the leap of faith and have luckily failed forward quite a bit to where we are today. A team of 8 producing about 100 units a year and $60 to $65 million in volume currently. Wow. And still failing forward to try to get, to that 150 to 100 million kind of situation. So.
It's an amazing journey, right? You do such a great job. And so happy to have you. Love to start off by asking, right, this is about failure. What we're looking for is transparent conversations around, we see so many podcasts, or especially in our industry, right, a lot of pomp and circumstance around success. And so Dusty and I were just like, man, let's get to the heart of like the ugly stuff. Right?
Okay.
Let's look at that a little bit. So when you think of failure, how do you define that? What does that mean to you?
Well, I think especially when you're trying to build a team, failure starts with the person who cast the vision. And about every year, our team has fallen apart. And I kept thinking, I'm casting the right vision, but the truth was I wasn't setting the right expectation for what that meant. I thought setting a number and going after it was easy, but teaching, training, explaining, setting expectations, and then following up so people were hitting their goals, was hearing it, was saying it, was talking about it. But I think this time around, I feel like I have the right people and the ability to kind of explain what it is we're trying to do together, and able to cast a little bit more of a vision and some value around what my wife and I bring to the table. So failure is, I don't think it's necessarily goals. I think sometimes it even starts with casting the wrong vision.
Yeah.
Right.
It starts from day one. Mm-hmm. And it's also to be expected. I think it's such a negative word a lot of times, but the truth is, if you're pushing yourself, you should be hitting.
That's right.
You should be hitting failure.
Yeah. What do you say, Dusty, around Gary's quote around failure?
Well, Gary talks about that we're really not failing; we're just learning how to succeed, right?
Yeah.
I remember being at a family reunion. I think it was like 7 years ago, I guess, and I was at the exact same place here. And like every year, I'm like, I'm just blowing this, man. Like, right? Like I'm grinding my teeth at night and couldn't figure it out. And Gary got up and he had like this graph that went like this, and he was like, this is what business looks like for the first 7 years, right? Like you do great and then you fail and you do great. And I was like, so I'm normal, right? I mean, it's like this aha head. I'm like, I just assumed, right, that I'm the only one jacking this all up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then I realized in that moment, I started looking around, I'm like, oh, so all y'all jacked it up.
It's guilty,
right?
Because Phil and I yesterday, we were at a leadership meeting, and Phil runs my real estate team, the Huffaker group, and we were like, for the last 4 or 5 weeks, we're like, man, it seems so different in the market. It's not good or bad. It's just weird, right?
Right.
But everybody that we talked to was having their best months. They're just gangbusters. And we're the first time we looked up, and we're like, we're not usually lagging, right? And a couple of times we've been so far ahead of it that we've just felt it or been aware of it sooner. And so yesterday, I told Phil, I was like, now I'm talking to a lot of people that are starting to feel it. And he was like, is it wrong that makes me feel better?
Well, it does, right?
Because you just want to know that it's not just you, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, yes and no.
When he said, like you're not failing, you're just learning how to succeed. I remember sitting there being like, well, then I've got to be the most successful dude in this arena right now.
Yeah.
Right? Because I got a string of them, right?
That's right.
But I think that's it. I think it's, when we talk about vision, right? It's where did the vision come from? I think that's part of it, right, Aaron? Is this my vision? Have I really asked what is my purpose? What is the vision, the big vision? And then it's a whole other ballgame then for that to go from this vision to our vision.
Yeah.
Right. And how do we help paint that picture? How do we all get in on that together? So it's a challenge.
Stevie D asked in an earlier podcast, like, where do you learn to ask great questions like that? And I don't think I had the answer at the time, but as I've thought about that since we've had that conversation, it's really if you're always expected to show up with the answer, it makes life really challenging, right?
That's right.
And so understanding that, like, I don't have to show up. In fact, I don't want to show up with the answer because I'm probably wrong. Mm-hmm. So rather than trying to show up with all the answers, what if I just show up with great questions?
That's right.
And then what you're talking about, right? And failing the iterations of a team, because I've been there, am there, right? I think we're always going through that evolution. There's this, in our world, right, there's leads, listings, and leverage. We kind of go back to, as you're building out a business, do you have enough leads or humans to talk to? Do you have, we call it listings, but it's really the skills necessary to convert, right? Can you get people to hire you?
That's right.
And I think if you're building out a company like you have, you start to master leads and listings at some point, right? You start to master the ability to generate the business and to convert the business, or the skills necessary. The leverage piece is the never-ending evolution. And my aha in that journey was that as long as I was focused on who I was getting into business with and what they were doing, I was failing. And I learned that I had to start focusing on who I am and who I'm becoming in the process. And those people the right talent will show up around me when I'm focused on developing me. It's right. Almost like when my child makes a mistake, I want to get onto him for making the mistake. But ultimately, who's responsible for that child's mistake?
Right.
And so I have to go like, okay, I wish I had this wherewithal when I was actually with my kids, and always was like, yeah, well, that's me. How did I, but really in the depths of it, who am I, and what do I need to focus on for me to prevent them from doing that again, right? Who do I have to show up as?
Yeah. And honestly, I believe that's why you have me here today. Yeah. Is because the journey I've been on and the event we went through, right? That's right. Obviously, when you talk about values and alignment of values and creating a vision, I didn't know who I was and what I wanted, right? And just so everybody out there watching or listening knows, my daughter is a third grader at the Covenant School, and on March 27th, our school, our community was assaulted by a mass murderer who was intent on killing hundreds of young children. Luckily, and unfortunately, she only killed 3, but those 3 were in my daughter's third grade class. Mm-hmm. And at 9 years old, my daughter then experienced an assault where this woman tried to get into their classroom with 85 rounds through their door and hid, and by the grace of God, survived something that I can't even imagine, right? And then to juxtapose that with the reality of life, the Easter Bunny showed up 2 weeks later. Mm-hmm. But the point is, because of the Covenant School, because it was across the street from our market center, that's how we ended up going to school there. Mm-hmm. My wife is Presbyterian, so that had played another part, but I was just like, okay. Seeing that special place and the young lady that they were delivering to us and the timeless truths around God and a relationship with Christ that I just had put off, I started to explore that, I'd say a little over a year ago, and wondering, what am I missing? Why am I putting this off in my own world, and what would it look like to understand, to have that conversation with her now that she's exploring it?
So what did that? I want to stop you right there because usually we would ask the question of, tell me about a failure you've seen in the past and where that's shown up and how you've learned from it. I think you've kind of already gone there, but this was a year. This was a certain number of months prior to what happened at the school, right? And God bless those little children. What was it in your life at that point though that made you stop and go, something's off?
To put it in business perspective, I think it was my first MREA year, and January 1 turned, and I don't remember the specific year. It was 1 or 2 years ago, and I was not happy. The next day, I had to get up and do it all over again. Yeah, that's right. And I was like, wait a minute, things were supposed to change. I'm an MREA now.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, okay, so this isn't it. And the moments, that hour, the 45 minutes, whatever it was, getting my daughter to school was some of the best time of the day when we would spend that time together, and then picking her up and knowing the things they were teaching her. I was like, okay, maybe it's in this building. Yeah. Maybe I've just put it aside because, I focused on business. If I just work super hard, my family's going to be all right.
Right.
And the truth is, if I'm not all right, they're not going to be all right. It doesn't matter how the business is going.
Starts with you, and
that's right.
My oldest turned 16, and like that, all of a sudden, those hours of taking them to school and picking them up, and I didn't realize how much I cherished that. Like those were the hours with my children.
That's your time.
That was my. I've even. I'm a big time blocker. Even on my calendar, you can see it. It says, time with boys in the morning. Right, waking them up, get your breakfast, get dressed. But it just goes by faster than you realize. Okay, so you're at that point, right, and you're recognizing maybe this isn't it. Which is what you and I started with purpose.
That's where
coaching.
we started all this, right? Was talking about, looking up and going, man, what's the purpose in all of this?
Yeah.
Right? We talked about this earlier on a podcast of we as men, right, think about providing, right? Hey, now that we've done this with our business, now like things should line up, right?
Everything should be
and
all
we
right.
just get it backwards, right?
Yeah.
We get it completely backwards, right?
Well,
A big business is a byproduct of a big life, and a big life starts with, when you were talking about leads, listening, leverage, David, this is the first time I thought about this, right? I thought about that foundational part of leads, and you take the S off of that, and it just says lead, right? And if we don't lead, right? If Dusty doesn't lead Dusty, and Aaron doesn't lead Aaron, and David doesn't lead David, right? I think anywhere where, in my opinion, anywhere where a man does not show up, right, in the manner that we're supposed to and lead ourselves well, the family's not going to go well.
Yeah,
right?
the consequence of it.
The family flourishes when we lead us well. And it sounds like, Aaron, you tell me, it sounds like your daughter started that lead in you, right? Like,
absolutely.
Like what you were hearing, but she was leading Dad.
Yeah, she's not aware of that.
Yeah.
And once again, it was a culmination of dropping her off and picking her up and going, there's something to this relationship they're building with her that I'm missing. And I think it was about fulfillment. My big word was fulfillment that year. And I'm like, what does that mean to me? What am I looking for? So I joined a couple men's groups, Christian men's group. Oddly enough, God has shown up so many different ways in my life since I started asking that question.
Mm-hmm.
And
isn't it funny that I love it when you say like he's showing up, but the funny thing is like he's always been there. You're just recognizing.
I wasn't
it.
paying attention.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and I've realized that too. And I asked an old colleague out to lunch, and he's like, you know what? When you walked in here, something told me to ask you to join this men's group. And I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
A year with men, it's a Christian study. And I was like, all right, these guys are all different than me. They're all strong. They're all failing like I am at different aspects of life. And I started to realize that being broken is the point, right? Like, you don't come to God or a relationship with Christ because you're perfect.
Right.
You're seeking support because you're imperfect. And I think I had that backwards.
And I think like that needs to be said again, because I think we all think like when I get it right, then I'll go to church, right? Or then I'll go seek God out because he doesn't want me as I am, right? Or somehow I'm not good enough. And you said it right, being broken is the point, right? That's the specialty, right?
That's right.
You're never as strong as you are when you're weak enough to get on your knees and ask, right?
Yeah,
And I think all of these things have come to me recently. Like, I am definitely, I try to explain it to people because my relationship with God that day it was transformational because I'd been looking for it.
Right.
That when we got to the school and they collected us in the sanctuary and we're all sitting there as these families are rolling in and nobody knows for sure, we're hearing murmurs of who's survived or who's hurt.
Right.
And I'm looking around the sanctuary and it was nothing but calm. You know, it was a Christian community, but we were so calm together. And I had been searching enough to realize that this is a relationship with God. These people get it. And this is what I've been looking for, because they knew no matter what they were about to hear, everything was going to be okay, right? And I know that's really hard to understand, but I don't think if I had been on that journey, on that search, that I would have been able to recognize it and experience it like that.
Yeah.
That is fulfillment, right?
And
you're searching for fulfillment. We think that comes in money, business, whatever. And I think what you experienced, right, in that moment, and you tell me, Aaron, was, okay, this is what fulfillment looks like, right? In the face of the worst, to have a calm, that
strength that was there because of a belief and a connection with something, once again, I hadn't been connected to in the way I should have. Yeah. I just don't know that I would have been able to get through this phase of my life without that.
Yeah, one of the
search.
things we talked about through purpose is some of us, many of us maybe have created businesses in a hope to fill an inner void, recognizing that when we would do the right things or find the relationship with Christ, internally the business becomes an outward manifestation of that, right?
That's right.
And so it's not an outside of the inside type thing, right? We've talked about that a lot on the podcast about, if you're experiencing that one, surrounding yourself with the right people, right? It's not like you found a men's group, right? And it's being aware of the seeds that are being planted in your life, so that when you're in the right moment, you will react to the right things in the right way, right?
That's right.
And like you said, someone invited you to a Christian men's group 2 years ago, you might have been like, I got things.
Yeah.
Right? Like, thanks. You guys take care of that. When when I get there, I'll get there, right?
Yeah.
So walk us through, right, the journey of what would you say to someone that's listening, right, or someone that's watching? Maybe they're just not there in their journey yet. What have you learned, and what would you encourage people to seek out?
Through this process with a relationship with God, I think first recognizing that imperfection and failure is part of the journey, right? And instead of trying to be more perfect and trying to control the result and the outcome just by pushing. I remember thinking, I'm gritty. I'm going to get up and still go after it. But the truth is, when I accepted the fact that something was amiss that I couldn't control, and then seeking answers, and then other things just kept falling in line with our business. We tried to come together, merger with another team. They were very Christian-based youth group leaders and men and women of faith, and that fell apart, but 3 of the people stayed with us. Yeah. And I was asking my wife the question, why is there so much of this in our lives right now? Like, it doesn't make sense. I've been here 25 years in Nashville, never been surrounded by this much, and then the event happened. So once again, I think whether it's a relationship with God, it's a better business, a relationship with your wife or your kids, now that I've accepted that I am imperfect and that I have work to do, and that's okay, there's a lot less pressure on me in the day to day.
I love that. I'm not there in my journey sometimes, right? I wish that I woke up every day and it was an Instagram post about, enjoy the sunshine and soak up every moment. And I'm a driver, right? And I sometimes lose sight of that. I often lose sight of that, right? I struggle with being who I need to be in order to be the person that God would accept, right? And so I think there's a lot of people on that journey. So wherever you're at in your journey, I would say, like, that's okay. And how do you deal with that, though? You surely you don't wake up every day and just go, it's sunshine and roses and I'm going to, Jesus, take the wheel type thing.
No. I try to explain it to people like this. It's like a new coat, right? I think I look cool in the mirror, but when I step out the door, I feel a little uncomfortable. And I'm not there yet. It's brand new to me. So I think I was very organized religion.
Yeah.
But as I've started to dig in, I've now got 4 men's groups. We got a 3rd grade dads group. We got a covenant dads group. One's more therapeutic. One's a Bible study. And then I've got some old fraternity brothers that reached out to me that do this Bible study. Yeah. And I'm just going like, okay, if this many people
my
I know,
fraternity brothers know my secrets, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll let me into their prayer group.
These guys have been doing it for 20 years.
That's
they meet
awesome.
on Tuesday mornings. This morning at 6:30, once again, this is new to me.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And the men's groups are all either later in the evening or early in the morning. It's uncomfortable at times,
Sure.
and I still get anxious, and I still...
Isn't everything that's good, though? I mean, almost
That's
everything that we do that we're growing in is uncomfortable.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah,
Yep.
and so I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, yeah, that day changed me for positive and everything's... Here's what I do know. I now know where to turn when I feel lost.
Yeah.
And that internal check was gone.
Yeah.
And I think a compass has kind of arrived, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and I think to that medium for everyone, to my parents are growing up, it was more organized religion, right? Mm-hmm. I've kind of have shied away from that some because of the stereotypes and all of that. And yet, as I get older, I find myself leaning back into what I was raised in. But what I hear you saying, it's really finding your tribe, right? Finding the people around you that lift you up and support you and make you feel strong. And to that, there are people that listen to this podcast all the time that probably don't have, we've talked about, don't have the people surrounding them to help them move out of scarcity and out of pain and into positivity and abundance. And so it would really encourage you to reach out to us or to those around you. Help find those people in your community that can help lift you up and help you become a new version of you. What got us here won't always get us there, right?
That's right.
And the people that were, I've got a lot of great people that I love with all my heart that weren't helping me become better, right?
That's
and
right.
maybe were pulling me down or reminding me often of my failures, right? If you're around people that are constantly reminding you of your shortcomings and your failures, you may be around the wrong people, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
It sounds like you've found your tribe. So how have you seen this show up? I know you and your wife have been passionate. People want to reach out and help or learn more about, I think your wife's working on some programs just through your guys' experience through this. How would they get in touch with you and learn more?
Well, I mean, you could email Aaron at AARON or Mary at yournashvilleagent.com. There's a special session coming up, and the Covenant Moms are really taking this opportunity for being Christian school and Christian parents, and it being Tennessee, which is pretty lax, if any kind of regulation towards gun control. And once again, we're not anti-gun people. I mean, so that's not the point. The point is we can't put our kids in a steel box 8 hours a day and just be like, well, at least they're locked up. And so something has to be done to create some sort of safeguard. And I don't think we know what the answers are, but we're just not open to the answer being nothing.
Right.
And so reach out. I definitely know that Mary and I can connect you or somebody with groups that we're trying to put together to make sure that the pressure stays on these folks.
Yeah. That's one of the challenges, right? Is that everybody gets emotional and excited about it when it happens, but then life goes on, right? And things fall off of the plate. And so I think keeping awareness around it's a real key.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I would say, last but not least, if you're passionate about it, show up and speak out. And once again, not to abolish guns, but to protect all of us.
Yeah.
Yep.
So. All right. So last question we love to ask when you're on the podcast. Think about, fast forward to the end. You've had a good life, right? And you're there and maybe your wife's there, your children, whatever. What do you worry about being your biggest regret at that point?
Honestly, it's everything we've just talked about. It's my daughter's 9 years old, and until you said the 16-year-old drive, I thought I had 9 years left, but it sounds like I have 7.
Sorry. 2 years like that. That's how fast it goes.
But I think it's because I was so focused on being the MREA, pushing the business. I realized how much I wasn't present when I thought I was.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing everything I can to make up for that so that I can turn around and say, I was there.
Yeah.
I did the thing yesterday. I left the office early to go. It was my 6-year-old's birthday last Thursday. I bought him some Legos, a Star Wars thing.
Nice.
I said, guys, he's sitting there. She sent me pictures of him waiting by the box. I left at 4 instead of 6 to go home and build that Star Wars.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's
Lego
what it's about
set.
right there.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's it, being present.
Yeah, and I think we pick up on similar themes as we go through the podcast, right? Of what a lot of us think about, and then what we're doing now to kind of wire around it. I believe there are great examples out there that are people doing it successfully. That you can. It's not always an either or, right? It's how do you intertwine all of this together when you think about the 6 personal perspectives, or you think about getting better. It doesn't just matter in business, right? It matters in our personal life, in our health, in our spirituality, in our careers, in our finances, in our relationships with our family and our friends. Like, I just think being intentional is probably the thing that we've all learned to be intentional about our business. The question is, if we learn to be intentional about our relationship with our spouse and our children, and we learn to be intentional about our relationship with God. You can do things, same things we've done for business, right? You can do them in terms of those other buckets and learn to mesh those together so that it's not a this or that, right? And I think that's the thing I love about our journey with purpose, right? And about how you coach in the room to helping people identify the whole human, right? And not just it's really not about business, right? It's about do you have a vision and a purpose identified?
That's right.
So that then we can find the solutions to help you get there. Business probably being a piece of that, right? It helps drive that. So
the end result.
That's it. Aaron, thank you so much for your time today, brother. Dustin, you got anything else, my man?
Man, I just thank you for coming and being vulnerable and sharing your heart. I think if I would say anything to anybody out there, would be, I think all 3 of us, you can be present and still not be present.
Yeah.
And I think all of us have had that. That was my aha sitting here, was you can be present and not be present. So let's be all the way present, right? Like Legos will end.
Right.
That's right.
There's going to be a day where they're not sitting by the Lego box. And the theme has been, when we've asked that question at the end, regardless of who is in the seat, the theme has been time.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
No, nobody's going to look back, our kids aren't going to look back and say, hey, my dad built a really big business.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to go, my dad put together a Lego with me.
Yeah.
Right? On a random Monday at 4 o'clock. That's what
right.
they'll remember.
Yeah.
Guys, as we wrap up today, we want hearts and prayers to go out to those at the Covenant School. What they went through was just unbelievable. We know that happens more often than it should. If you're in a place where you're struggling with mental health or you need some attention, please reach out to your community. Reach out to people around you. We want to lift you up. We want to love you unconditionally and find a way to help you navigate through it. And if you're one of those families, our hearts and prayers go out to you. We ask that you'll know that we're thinking of you and we're here to support you any way that we can. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.